Hello friends, about 70% of the friends who watch my videos are not subscribed, and I would be very happy if you did. Also, don't forget to press the like button and leave your comments. Your interaction makes the content reach everyone and contributes to the growth of the channel. Thank you all. From which country or city do you follow the channel? There are things I once believed were top secret. Now I wish I had never read them. I don't remember the exact date anymore. The calendar in my room was torn down long ago, or at least I think I was the one who tore it down. I used to work for an agency with no name, no logo, no official personnel list. Anyone who ever worked there, if they're still alive, disappeared from all records 6 months after leaving. I wasn't a field agent. I wasn't a scientist. I was the person they called when things got too strange for science to explain, but still too precise to be dismissed as madness. My life changed after a summons arrived, no signature, no seal. Just a blank sheet of paper with a single line, Tibet. Level 9. Remain silent. Memorize the rules. I had no choice. None of us did. If you think this is a story about aliens, you're right. But not in the way you expect. There were no flying saucers, no blinding beams of light, no shrill sounds in the night. Instead, there was light radiating from flesh voices whispering in your mind even when your ears were covered, and a fear that didn't come from what you saw, but from what you were forbidden to remember. I'll tell you about the first time I encountered what they call Moovianthan Kayphik, and the rules that if broken ensure you'll never leave that place, just like me. I was halfway through my second coffee when the lights in my apartment flickered, not once, not twice, but in a pattern. 3 short blinks, a pause, then 2 long ones. Like Morse code, but wrong. I stood up still in my undershirt and glanced at the window. Snow was falling over DC, silent and suffocating, the kind of snow that deadens sound. My street looked too quiet. No footsteps, no cars, not even the rumble of distant metro lines. It felt staged, like someone had turned the volume of the world down. That's when I saw the envelope. It hadn't been there a second ago, I swear it, but now it lay on my kitchen counter. No stamps, no fold marks, just a white sheet, pristine, warm to the touch, like it had just been printed. Inside was a single line typed in bold, Tibet, Level 9, remain silent, memorize the rules. There was no sender, no return address, no official seal, and yet I packed my bag within 5 minutes, not because I was afraid of defying orders, but because some part of me knew this was not a request. The flight to Lhasa was untraceable. I was picked up by a man who didn't speak, didn't blink, didn't ask for my name. We drove in silence through roads that didn't appear on any map I could remember, until mountains swallowed us whole. Somewhere along a forgotten trail, he stopped. Not a checkpoint, not a base, just a boulder with a rusted handle buried in snow. He turned to me for the first time and said, "Once the door shuts, you won't hear the world again. Not until they let you." I asked, "Who's they?" He didn't answer. The hatch opened with a mechanical hiss, like something hadn't been disturbed in decades. What lay beneath wasn't a bunker. It was a descent. 9 levels down through an elevator with no buttons, no display, just a mirror facing you. But I wasn't alone in the reflection. Each level we passed, the temperature dropped. Not in a natural way, not like cold air. It was more like the absence of time, like each floor stripped something from your body you couldn't name. Memories, warmth, identity. At level 9, the elevator stopped with a jolt. When the door opened, I stepped into a hallway that looked like a Cold War facility abandoned mid-construction. Exposed wires, metallic pipes, but impossibly clean. No dust, no smell, not even air movement. A woman in a sterile white coat approached, holding a clipboard but no pen. She didn't ask my name. She already knew it. "You're here for the Moovianthan Kayphik protocol," she said flatly. "You'll read the file in room D. After that, the rules apply. Once you've read it, they will become aware of you." I asked, "Who exactly are they?" She looked at me for a beat too long, then simply said, "You'll understand why we don't say their names out loud." I stepped into room D. There was no table, no chairs, Just a sealed folder floating in a transparent containment field suspended by invisible force. And right before I touched it, I noticed something scratched faintly into the metal wall beside me. Not written, but etched as if by fingernails. Do not think of light. The lights above flickered again. 3 short, 2 long. The same pattern from my apartment. Something was watching. And it had been watching me long before I arrived. The moment I touched the folder, it was warm. Not warm like it had just been printed, warm like a pulse. As if the file itself was breathing. The transparent field holding it flickered, then dissolved without a sound. No one entered the room. No alarms. Just me, the file, and the faint buzzing in my ear that started the moment my fingers brushed the paper. It wasn't static. It was whispering. The first page was blank. The second, just a line of text in red, centered, "If you are reading this, you have been seen." The temperature in the room dropped. My breath began to fog, but there was no visible vent, no airflow, only that line, and the feeling that someone was now standing behind me just out of sight. I didn't turn around. The contents of the file were fragmented, disjointed, like someone tried to erase parts of it and failed. Still patterns emerged. Species Moovianthan Kayphik, codename Shining Ones, estimated origin, Fixa Nebula, Vulpecula, constellation, first contact, unconfirmed, 1963, Western Siberia, method of travel, dimensional phase, shift, nonlinear temporal axis, primary activity, observation, genetic harvest, cognitive imprinting, allied with Orion Syndicate, Gray Collective. There were photos, grainy infrared, the kind of surveillance images that make you wish they were fakes. One photo showed a figure standing alone in the snow, eyes glowing, head slightly tilted, no footprints around it. The caption read, "Image captured 9 seconds before the entity appeared." There were interviews too. Declassified transcripts, or rather what remained of them. One quote stood out. Burned into my memory, I only said the word light once. I didn't mean to. I didn't even say it aloud, but it heard me. And then I was in 1971, in my childhood bedroom. My father was still alive, but his eyes weren't his. Then came the rules, handwritten shakily, like the author was being watched while writing survival directives. Do not deviate. Do not speak their name aloud. Do not look at your own reflection after reading this file. If you think of light, immediately count backward from 13. Never sleep facing the door. If you hear your own voice behind you, run. Do not turn around. If you encounter a version of yourself that smiles too much, shoot it. Once you finish reading, do not close the file. They don't like being turned away from. I didn't realize I had started crying. Tears streaked down my face without permission. My fingers were trembling. But I kept reading, because something in the room wanted me to. The last page had no text, just a fingerprint. Mine. Somehow. Already printed. Then the buzzing stopped. Not gradually. Not like a device turning off. It cut off like a breath held too long. And the lights overhead dimmed one by one. Not out, just low enough to cast shadows where there shouldn't be any. In the darkened corner of the room, a shape. Tall. Narrow. Head slightly tilted. Watching. Not moving. Not blinking. But glowing. And that's when I heard the voice again. My voice. From behind me. Whispering, "You shouldn't have looked." They didn't give me a debriefing. They didn't ask questions. They didn't even look me in the eye. After I finished reading the file, the woman in the white coat returned, except this time her hands were shaking. Just a little. Barely noticeable. But I saw it. She handed me a smaller envelope sealed in black wax with no markings. "These rules aren't for your protection," she said, her voice low. "They're for containment. If you follow them, you might delay its attention." That was the first time someone called it. Inside the envelope were 7 rules written in the same trembling handwriting I saw in the file. No explanations, no scientific reasoning, just commands. But what terrified me most was what came with the rules. They handed me a mirror. Just a plain circular handheld mirror. "You'll need this for Rule 3. I didn't ask, because by then, I could feel them watching. Rule 1. Do not speak their name aloud, not even in your mind. If you do, they will know exactly where you are and when. I tested this once, not aloud, just in my thoughts. I repeated the name Moovianthan Kayphik silently. Within 3 minutes, my nose started bleeding. The hallway lights dimmed. The air went sharp like biting aluminum, and I saw movement in the mirrored walls of the elevator. Something tall, something smiling. Rule 2. Never look into a mirror directly after dreaming of them. Your reflection may still be asleep, or worse, awake on the wrong side. The third night I had the dream, a corridor of infinite light bending like liquid. I saw my childhood bedroom. I saw myself staring back at me from the foot of my bed, only I didn't blink. I woke up drenched in sweat. Out of instinct, I looked into the mirror they gave me. My reflection didn't blink either. I smashed the mirror. But every reflective surface after that window's puddle's polished metal showed me the same unmoving face. Rule 3. If you accidentally think of light, begin counting backward from 13 immediately. This disrupts their attention pattern. It sounds ridiculous, but your thoughts are like sonar to them. Once I was reviewing data and saw a line in the report, light radiates from beneath the skin. Before I could stop myself, I thought, why light? My vision blurred. My ears filled with a low-frequency chant like underwater voices. I counted. 13, 12, 11. At 10 it stopped, but I saw something new on my wrist, a faint glowing symbol, like a fingerprint. It wasn't mine. Rule 4. Do not sleep facing the door. Ever. Doors are how they arrive, but also how they watch. I didn't believe this one, so I tested it. I positioned the cot in my room to face the door directly. I left it open a crack just to prove a point. At 3:11 a.m., I woke up to the sound of something breathing inches from my face. The door was still open, but now it led to a hallway I didn't recognize, pulsing like a throat. I turned the cot around the next night. The door disappeared. Rule 5. If you hear your own voice behind you, do not respond. Do not turn around. It is not you. This rule keeps me up the most, because it's happened 3 times now. Each time I was alone. Lights flickering, static humming in the corners, and then my voice directly behind me saying something only I could have known. The last time it whispered, "You already broke the rule. You just don't remember when." I didn't turn around, but my shadow did. Rule 6. If you see a version of yourself smiling too much, destroy it. It is trying to replace you. There are cameras in the facility everywhere. No blind spots, supposedly. But on the playback of one shift log, I saw myself enter the elevator at 02:47 a.m. Smiling. Wide. Too wide. Except I was already in bed at that time. When I paused the footage, the other me looked directly into the camera and mouthed, "Let me out." Rule 7. Once you've read the rules, do not close the file. They do not like being turned away from. I asked what would happen if I closed it. The woman didn't answer. She simply walked away, and the lights behind her turned off as she moved one by one. I never saw her again. The file still lies open on the desk, covered in dust now, but the symbols glow faintly in the dark, just enough to read, and just enough to remind me they're still watching. I was told nothing, no protocol, no escort, just a single sentence flashing on the screen outside my door. Proceed to observation room Theta. The hallway felt wrong, like it hadn't been built, but remembered into existence. Every step I took made a faint metallic chime like distant bells echoing from underwater. The lights above weren't normal bulbs. They pulsed gently, rhythmically like a heartbeat, but not synced with mine. When I reached the door, it slid open without a sound, and inside everything changed. The room was circular, walls of obsidian black, seamless. No lights, but still illuminated as if the darkness was producing its own glow. At the center was a transparent barrier. Inside that, something standing. Or rather, something that had chosen to look like it was standing. Moovianthan Kayphik. Or at least the version of it my mind could comprehend without snapping in two. Its form shimmered, not from light, but from movement that defied physics. like its body was being updated frame by frame faster than my eyes could keep up. No mouth. No eyes. But I could feel it studying me, not from across the room, but from inside my thoughts. Then it spoke, but not aloud. Not in words. It projected understanding straight into my brain. A presence pressed against the edges of my consciousness, soft at first, like someone knocking politely inside your skull. And then a voice. Not foreign. Mine. It used my own voice. My own memory of how I sound. You remember us. Because you were always meant to. My throat tightened. I hadn't opened my mouth. But I could feel it smiling, even without a face. That's when I noticed the anomaly, the clock on the wall. It wasn't moving forward. It was counting down, slow, deliberate, ticking towards 0, 00, 02, 41, 02, 40, 02, 39. I asked out loud, what happens at 0? The room didn't answer, but the temperature dropped by 10 degrees instantly. My breath misted, my fingers shook, the walls pulsed once, and I realized it was breathing. Not the creature, the room itself. Suddenly a second presence entered. I hadn't seen anyone else enter. But when I blinked, there was another figure inside the containment with the entity. A man. Or something shaped like a man. But its head was all wrong. Too long. Too smooth. Its face stretched into a permanent expression of neutral peace, the kind that makes you feel like screaming. Then it turned to me. And it had my face. Perfectly. Same scar on the lip. Same tired eyes. But it smiled too much. And it raised its hand against the glass palm flat. I didn't raise mine, but my reflection did. The timer hit 0, and everything stopped. No sound. No motion. Even my thoughts halted, like someone paused my consciousness. For a single second, I didn't exist. And in that nothingness, I saw them all. Hundreds, maybe thousands of beings like it, floating in the black between stars. Watching, waiting, not invading, not conquering, just choosing. And somehow I knew I was one of the chosen. When time resumed, the room was empty. No entity, no double. Only me and a note on the wall written in a language I'd never seen. And yet I understood it perfectly. One meeting is enough for most, not for you. The day after the encounter, I was reassigned. They didn't explain why. No one ever does down here. But I noticed something was different, colder, quieter. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel natural. The kind that presses in from all sides. I was sent to assist a man named Calder. He was a linguistics analyst, transferred from another division, a civilian technically. Still green. Still asking questions. Too many questions. He'd read the same file I had, but he hadn't felt it yet. They assigned us to a review chamber, thick walls, no cameras, only audio recorders. We were supposed to listen to an intercepted sound clip. Something captured during an unsanctioned mental breach in northern Russia. But Calder couldn't stop staring at the waveform on the screen. His lips moved as he read the modulations. It's like light, he said softly, unaware. I turned toward him, my heart stalling. What did you say? He looked confused. It sounds like light. That's the only way I can describe it. I didn't have time to count backward from 13. And neither did he. The lights in the room went out instantly. Pitch black. The waveform stopped. The recorders sparked and died. Even the emergency backup generator didn't hum. And then a sound. Not loud, not violent. Just wet. Like ice cracking inside bone. I reached for my flashlight, but the moment it clicked on, I saw him. Calder. Still standing, still upright. But his eyes were frozen solid. His pupils clouded with frost, his mouth slightly open. He didn't fall. He didn't scream. He just stayed like that. Perfectly still. A statue made of flesh. But something inside him was still moving. I swear to God, something behind his face, like a hand pressing against skin from the inside. I backed away, trying not to breathe too loudly. But then, the radio on the wall crackled to life. No power, no signal. And still, it whispered in my own voice. You should have stopped him. I turned to run. The door was sealed. There was no code, no lock, no handle. Just a single phrase etched into the metal. Now you've both been seen. I don't remember how I got out. I must have blacked out. Or maybe they found me unconscious. When I came to, I was in a medical ward, alone, except for the mirror. They'd placed it on the nightstand beside me, the same round mirror from before. But now, there was a crack down the center, and scrawled across the glass in something that looked like ash and blood were 4 words. He broke the silence. Later, I overheard 2 technicians talking in hushed voices near the door. Another freeze event. Yeah. Temporal lockout. 37 seconds. Is the body stable? What body? They weren't talking about Calder. They were talking about me. Since that day, I've seen Calder's face in my dreams. Only not as it was. His mouth moves backward now. His smile is inverted. His voice stutters like static across broken glass. Sometimes I see him in the reflections watching me frozen in time, except for the twitch in his cheek. And every time I try to sleep, I hear my voice whisper, "You will speak it too." After the Calder incident, they stopped calling me by name, not out of malice, out of fear. I was referred to only as the witness. Whatever I'd seen, or whatever had seen me, changed something in their protocols. 3 days later, they came for me again. 2 guards in black environmental suits. No insignias, no faces. They didn't speak. They just handed me a pair of surgical gloves, a black hood, and a line of instruction. You are to proceed to level X. Not a number, just the letter. X. Something unlisted. Something buried, even beneath level 9. The elevator they brought me to was unlike the others. No buttons, no lights, only a panel of dark stone pulsing faintly like it was alive. When I stepped inside, there was no motion, just a sudden shift, like the entire world inverted in silence. Not falling, unbeing. And then I arrived. Level X was not a facility. It was a cavern, endless, hollow, breathing. Not made by hands or drills or nature, but something older. The air shimmered like oil over water. I took 1 step forward and immediately felt time dilate. My left foot landed in what felt like 10 seconds after my right. The guards didn't follow me in. They simply shut the entrance, and I was alone. In front of me stood a monolith blacker than black, absorbing all light. But within its surface, I could see things moving like silhouettes, swimming beneath ice, twisting and staring back. I approached. At its base was a narrow crevice, a passage wide enough for a human to crawl through. Something in my chest screamed to turn back, but my legs moved anyway. Inside the passage, there was no gravity. I floated through a tunnel of impossible geometry where walls bent in curves that led into themselves. Colors I had no names for pulsed from within the stone. And at the tunnel's end, I emerged into a space that made me forget how breathing worked. A void, a cathedral, a womb. I don't know. It wasn't space, but it wasn't Earth. Above me hung structures like inverted cities glowing with ancient shifting symbols, floating, breathing. And beneath them, suspended in the air, were humans, or what was left of them. Some were ancient desiccated husks frozen in time. Others were perfectly preserved eyes wide open, trapped mid-scream, never decaying. And one of them was Calder. But not frozen, not screaming, smiling. When he turned to face me, his eyes were not his own. They shimmered like polished mirrors, reflecting back a version of me I didn't recognize. Then came the sound. Not heard, felt. Like a hum in my bones, vibrating my thoughts loose from their sockets. My memories bled out of my mind like water through a sieve. I didn't know who I was, where I'd come from. Only that they were watching. Moovianthan, Kayphik. I couldn't see them, not directly, but in the periphery I caught glimpses. A flash of something tall and faceless, a shimmer of skin that glowed beneath itself, a mass that shifted with no fixed shape, only intention, and then a voice. You have passed beneath the silence. It wasn't in my ears. It was everywhere, in the walls, the air, my bloodstream. You may now be told what cannot be untold. A single word echoed through the void. Not English, not human, but I understood it. Replacement. I woke up somewhere else. My clothes were intact. My skin felt colder. And when I looked in the mirror, it blinked before I did. When I opened my eyes, I was back in my room. Same bed, same walls, same static hum of fluorescent lights. But something was off. The clock on the wall was blinking 12-0, 12-0, 12-0 like it had just lost power. Or time itself. My ID badge lay on the desk, covered in a thin layer of dust, but the photo on it wasn't the same. My name was there, my face too, but my expression was smiling. Too much. I checked the door. It opened without resistance. No guards, no personnel. The corridors were empty, as if the facility had been abandoned years ago. Except for the lights. They were still on. And the cameras. They were still following me. I found the main communications terminal in the monitoring room. It was active. Logs scrolled by, all time-stamped. Except the dates made no sense. June 9th, 2023, August 3rd, 2017, February 14th, 1963. One line repeated every few logs, subject returned. Identity confirmed, loop incomplete. Loop. I tried to access the system. Entered my old clearance code. It worked, but the screen displayed a single message: you never left. I backed away from the terminal. The mirror on the far wall, the one I had always avoided, flickered, and in it I saw myself. Or not quite me. He was cleaner, more composed, standing still. Then he tilted his head, just slightly, and smiled. My voice came from the speakers. But I hadn't spoken. We needed a vessel. You remembered too much, so we placed you back. Slightly wrong. I ran. But every corridor led back to the same hallway. Same flickering lights, same static drone, same mirror. But now each time I passed it, there were more of me in it. Dozens. Some with stitched eyes, some bleeding from the mouth. One with no face at all. All smiling. Eventually, I found the exit. I stumbled into the snow, bright, clean, blinding white. But the mountain looked different. Lower. Cracked. Like it had collapsed in on itself centuries ago. In the distance, I saw a satellite dish covered in rust and a military truck overgrown with moss. No guards, no fences, only the wind. I walked for hours. Days I couldn't tell. Until a convoy finally found me on a dirt road, headlights splitting the fog. They surrounded me with weapons, shouting commands I couldn't understand. When I said my name, one of them froze. "That can't be right," he muttered. "That ID was decommissioned in 1982. I'm in a government hospital now. Or something pretending to be one. The walls are white. The doctors wear masks. No one speaks directly to me. They just write. Observe. Every night I wake up with faint glowing symbols on my skin, gone by morning. And on the far wall, there's always a mirror. Sometimes it shows the room. Sometimes it shows a hallway of black stone and a figure standing far at the end, unmoving. And sometimes when I stare too long, I see myself walking toward me from the other side. Closer. Every night. Just a little closer. And the worst part, I'm starting to smile back. If you found this story valuable and interesting, please hit the like button. This really helps us bring you more good and valuable content. Leave a comment below and let us know what you think, what questions you have, or what topics you would like us to cover next. We love hearing from you. Of course, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our next stories. Thank you for taking the time to read my stories.